Look at your hand right now. You think you are holding a smartphone, but what if that screen is actually holding your soul? In this deep analysis, we break down the hard-hitting wisdom of Shaykh Hasan Ali on the modern crisis of the Muslim mind. A massive part of that crisis is how these digital traps, the constant scrolling through luxury lifestyles, the obsession with our banking apps, feed our deepest financial anxieties. They shrink a believer's mind into the state of constant worry. But in today's explainer, we are going to challenge that anxiety at its absolute root. We're unpacking a profound, paradigm-shifting lecture by the Sheikh on the divine name Ar-Razzaq. By the end of this, we're going to completely shift your mindset from this modern illusion of daily scarcity to a deep, unshakable understanding of divine abundance. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. What if everything you've been taught about wealth is just wrong? To really grasp this, we have to recognize how modern society and, those algorithmic dopamine traps we just talked about conditions us to view survival purely through a stressful, super materialistic lens. We're told our paycheck is our only lifeline, right? Like if you lose it, you lose everything. But man, that narrow view completely shatters when you're introduced to the deeper spiritual mechanics of the universe. The reality is, our spreadsheets and our income brackets, they're just a tiny, tiny fraction of the actual picture.
Section 1. The true meaning of provision. So, to fundamentally change how we see our finances, we have to completely dismantle this idea that provision is just the cash sitting in your bank account. It's so much more than that. This explainer is grounded in core theology, focusing on the divine name Ar-Razzaq, which literally translates to the ultimate provider. And what he provides is called rizq, meaning sustenance or provision. Now, what's absolutely vital to grasp here is that this provision isn't just some random sporadic gift. Allah provides seamlessly, literally from your very first breath on earth all the way into the afterlife. Without this continuous provision, life itself just ceases to exist.
So the crucial point is, rizq is vast. I mean, truly vast. It encompasses absolutely everything we consume, utilize, and experience. Sure, it's your paycheck, it's your food and water, but notice how it's also your deep, restful sleep. It's the time you have in the day, the health of your body, your family members, and even the spiritual knowledge you acquire. When you realize that even a peaceful night's sleep is an allocated portion of wealth given directly to you, wow, it completely reframes what makes a person wealthy, doesn't it? Section 2. The Highway of Wealth.
And this brilliantly illustrates how wealth actually flows. Because once we understand what rizq is, the natural question is, well, why do some people have seemingly endless resources while others are really struggling? Shaykh Hasan Ali uses this amazing analogy. Imagine a massive, 8-lane open highway where traffic is just flowing freely and abundantly. That represents expanded rizq. Now on the flip side, imagine it's nighttime, and there are traffic cones restricting that exact same highway down to just 2 lanes. This is exactly how wealth is distributed in the world. Deliberate expansion for some, and intentional restriction for others. But here is the massive perspective shift. That restriction, it's actually a divine mercy. Think about it. If a law were to expand provision limitlessly for everyone, humans would inevitably become arrogant. Corruption, greed, and crime would literally overrun the earth. It would be a fitna of epic proportions. So sometimes, not getting the wealth you desperately want, it's the very thing protecting your soul from earthly corruption. Section 3. Family and divine guarantees. Now this brings us to a super common modern anxiety. That intense fear of not being able to afford getting married or having children. The waswas, the whispering doubts, can be overwhelming. But the Quran directly addresses this hesitation with an incredibly powerful verse. Do not kill your children out of fear of poverty. The profound truth here is that every single new soul, whether it's a spouse entering your life or a newborn baby, arrives with their own pre-written, completely guaranteed provision. You aren't providing for them out of your allocation. Allah is providing for them through you. Actually, there's a fascinating story from the time of the Prophet Muhammad that illustrates this perfectly. So there were these 2 brothers. One worked tirelessly in the market trying to earn a living, while the other spent his time studying Islam with the Prophet. Eventually, the working brother complained. He was like, I'm carrying the entire financial burden here. But the Prophet's response? It's mind-blowing. He told the working brother that it was highly possible his wealth was actually flowing to him because of his studying brother. Think about that. Spiritual efforts can literally unlock material wealth. Think of it like this. If you have a family of 3, say a father, a mother, and a child, Basic math tells you there are 3 potential channels of risk, but a law often opens up a hidden 4th channel for the family. This comes through totally unexpected gifts, unexplainable discounts, or just sudden opportunities out of nowhere. The math of risk isn't linear at all. Section 4, the hidden power of barakah. Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how it leads to perhaps the most counterintuitive paradox of Islamic wealth. Why does the math of money so often fail to add up? And why doesn't more money automatically mean more wealth? Well, it all comes down to this concept of barakah. Barakah is divine blessing. It's this invisible force that multiplies the utility and the sufficiency of your resources. It completely defies basic mathematics. With barakah, a tiny amount of food feeds an entire crowd, and a small amount of money covers all your needs, somehow, with some left over. Let's contrast these real-world salaries to make barakah super relatable. You've probably seen this yourself. You might know someone making, say, £20,000 a year, but their money stretches like it's $70,000. They have barakah. They cover their rent, their food, and they live peacefully. On the flip side, someone earning £60,000 a year without barakah, they just watch their money vanish into constant, draining emergencies. The car breaks down, the roof leaks, sudden medical bills popping up. Higher income without divine blessing? It just leads to endless stress. Section 5, the secret to expansion. So naturally, you're probably wondering, how do we actively open up those highway lanes and actually get that blessing? Well, it's perfectly captured in this personal anecdote Shaykh Hasan Ali shares about a man who owned a massive cleaning service for London hotels and Dubai businesses. The catch? The man had almost zero business skills. Seriously, he didn't know how to hire, he knew nothing about marketing. Yet, money just poured in by the tens of thousands. When people asked for his secret, the man simply said, "Whenever someone is in need, I never refuse to help them financially." That businessman's unexplainable success connects directly to this incredibly famous hadith. Allah will help his servant as long as he helps his brother. Generosity is the ultimate mechanism for financial expansion. It's a real game changer. When you become a conduit for helping others, Allah expands your highway of rizq so that you can continue to be a vessel of his provision to the world. It's that simple. Section 6, choosing the pure path. But listen, there is a totally crucial condition to all of this. While the amount of your provision is pre-written and guaranteed, you as a human being still have to choose the method of acquiring it. Take the Prophet's night journey as an example. He was presented with 2 vessels, one of milk and one of wine. Both were forms of provision presented to him, but one was pure and the other was forbidden. He chose the milk. Every single day, your designated wealth will come to you, but you're going to be tested with the choice. Will you take it through pure, ethical halal means? Or will you grasp for it through corrupt, haram means? Let's move to the next part and see how this builds into an actionable blueprint for our daily lives. Number 1, you still have to tie your camel and make the physical effort to seek work. That human effort is part of the mechanism. Number 2, give generously to activate that barakah and expand your channels. And number 3, absolutely insist on tayyib, meaning pure and permissible sources. Never ever compromise your iman or your ethics for a provision that was already guaranteed to you anyway. Because at the end of the day, true wealth isn't just about the sheer volume of what you receive. It's about the divine blessing within it and the spiritual purity of how you accept it. So I want to leave you with this final lingering thought. The resources you need to survive are already written for you. The only question left is, when your provision arrives today, will you choose what is pure?
So we constantly obsess over our bank accounts, right? Like tracking every single penny, just absolutely terrified of losing our grip on our security.
Oh, absolutely. It's a universal anxiety.
Yeah, but what if the very act of hoarding that wealth and, isolating our whole definition of success to just a paycheck is actually the exact mechanism restricting what we receive?
Well, that is the exact paradigm shift we're getting into today.
Exactly. Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. We are unpacking a really fascinating lecture by Shaykh Hasan Ali, and our mission today is to completely reframe how you view wealth and sustenance. We're looking at the divine name Ar-Razak, which means the provider, and this whole concept of risk or provision.
Right. And to truly grasp the mechanics at play here, we really have to dismantle the modern understanding of risk. I mean, our current societal operating system defaults to equating provision strictly with currency.
Like if you have money, you're provided for. If you don't, you aren't.
Exactly. But unpacking the deeper theology reveals that focusing solely on finances is, well, it's like looking at a single pixel and thinking you understand the entire photograph. The actual concept is infinitely more expansive. It covers all spheres of life.
Yeah, it reminds me of a smartphone's operating system.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right, because we stare at that little battery percentage icon in the corner and we panic when it drops below 20%. That battery icon is our bank balance. We just hyperfixate on
And
it.
we'll completely ignore everything else.
Exactly. We ignore the background processes like the memory management, the Wi-Fi receiver, the screen resolution. And in the context of risk, those background processes are, our physical health, our time, the air in our lungs, our family members, even the quality of our sleep.
Yeah, sleep is a massive one.
We take that entire operating system for granted until it crashes.
You're spot on. Because you can have a fully charged battery, right? But a corrupted operating system renders the phone completely useless. The baseline provision we experience is inextricably tied to our very existence.
Meaning just the fact that we're alive.
Yes, the theological reality is that if the flow of risk were to completely halt, even just denying you a single breath or a drop of water, it means immediate death. The continuation of life itself is the physical proof that Arzak is actively sustaining the system.
Wow. So no risk basically means no life. It starts at birth and goes right through to the afterlife, right? Where there's Riz Kareem, or generous provision in paradise.
Exactly. The baseline is always functioning as long as you have a pulse.
Okay, but I have to ask, if that baseline is guaranteed, if the system is kept online just by us waking up, why do we experience such intense financial bottlenecks?
Right, the struggle feels very real.
It does. When someone is struggling to pay rent, they feel like the provision system has just fundamentally broken down. Does it glitch?
Well, no, there are no glitches in this system. The fluctuation is highly deliberate.
Deliberate? How so?
The baseline keeps you breathing, but the volume of certain material wealth is dynamically distributed. This introduces a massive cognitive dissonance for most of us. We assume that if our razak is infinite, the provision should just flow endlessly and equally to everyone.
Right. We want the maxed out battery all the time.
Exactly. But when it doesn't flow equally, we interpret that restriction as a failure or a punishment.
Which brings us to the traffic lanes of wealth. Because you look around and some people are just cruising financially while others are barely scraping by.
Yes, and the concept of expansion and restriction frames this perfectly. In Surah Arad, it clearly states that Allah expands provision for whom He wills and restricts it for whom He wills.
So it's never stopped while you're alive.
Right, never stopped. It's either expanded or restricted.
Yeah.
Shaykh Hasan Ali explains this using the mechanics of driving. Imagine you find yourself on a massive 8-lane superhighway.
Oh, I love this analogy.
It's brilliant, right? You've got 4 lanes on your side, traffic is flowing effortlessly, you can maneuver however you want, you take on new investments, buy whatever you need. That is an expanded state of risk.
Okay, but then what happens?
Then, almost out of nowhere, you hit a construction zone. The orange cones come out at night, the lanes merge, and suddenly you're bottlenecked into a narrow single lane, just crawling along. Or maybe you're on a tiny one-way street that eventually opens up later.
But let me push back on that a little bit. Because if someone is stuck in that single lane with the cones up all around them, feeling that claustrophobia of debt, it feels incredibly unfair.
It definitely feels that way in a moment.
Yeah, like why put the cones up for one person and leave the superhighway wide open for someone else? Are they just doomed?
To understand why Arazak restricts those lanes, you have to look at another point from the sources, specifically in Surah Ashura. It points to human psychology and the corrupting nature of unchecked excess.
So it's about how we handle the wealth.
Exactly. If provision were endlessly expanded for everyone all at once, people would commit transgressions and crimes on earth. When humans get unlimited resources without boundaries, arrogance and moral decay usually follow.
Oh, wow. So the restriction isn't a penalty at all. It's actually a guardrail.
Yes. It's a profound form of divine mercy and protection. We all have like a spiritual carrying capacity.
Yeah.
How much wealth can you personally handle before it alters your character?
Right, before it makes you completely entitled.
Exactly. The paradox is that the frustrating restricted lane might be the very mechanism saving you from what excessive wealth would have done to you. It keeps you grounded.
That completely changes how you view a tight budget. But surviving that restricted lane requires something else, right? Which leads us to this invisible force called baraka.
Yes. Baraka, divine blessing or grace.
Because it turns out it's not really about the amount of money in your lane, it's about the quality of it.
This is the unseen multiplier. We always evaluate wealth quantitatively. We just look at the raw numbers. But baraka operates qualitatively. Shaykh Hasan Ali gives this classic income disparity example.
Right, the two different salaries.
Exactly. You have one person making, say, 40 to 60,000 pounds a year. On paper, they should be comfortable. Yet the money just vanishes into thin air on constant, unexpected expenses.
The boiler breaks, the car dies, it just evaporates.
Yes. For them, the money lacks baraka. But another person makes only 20 to 25,000 a year, yet it perfectly covers everything.
It's like Allah puts baraka in that money, making 25 grand stretch as if it were 70 grand.
Precisely. The standard math absolutely breaks down when baraka is introduced.
It really is like comparing empty calories to nutrient-dense food. You could eat a massive mountain of junk food, which is the high salary with no baraka, and still be starving an hour later.
That is a perfect analogy.
Thanks. Or you can have a small, healthy meal, the lower salary with high baraka, and be completely energized and sustained.
And the fascinating thing is that baraka applies to time as well. It's not just money.
Oh, right. Time baraka. How does that work?
Well, you might see a 50-year-old who manages to accomplish these incredibly useful, monumental things that another person couldn't achieve in 100 years. The baraka, in their time, allowed a compression of value.
So if baraka bends the rules like that, there must be logistical pathways we just aren't seeing, right?
Exactly. Our razak provides in ways we cannot physically see. Take a family of 3, a mother, a father, and a baby. Logically, there are only so many sources of risk.
Right, maybe 2 salaries if both parents work.
But suddenly, a 4th hidden channel opens up. Unexpected gifts arrive, or someone hands the father money he couldn't have predicted. These hidden channels are a core reality of this framework.
Okay, but this brings up a huge question for me. If baraka dictates the value and the channels can be completely hidden, do we just sit back and wait?
Oh, absolutely not. Passivity is not the answer.
Right, because how do our everyday actions influence those hidden lanes? Do we have to hustle?
You do have to put in physical effort. The Prophet explicitly instructed people to go out and seek their provision. But the paradigm shift here is that spiritual effort is just as vital as the physical grind.
Yeah, the story from the Prophet's time about the 2 brothers really illustrates this.
It does. You had one brother who worked incredibly hard in the market, doing all the physical labor. The other brother dedicated his time to studying Islam with the Prophet.
And the working brother eventually hits his limit and complains, right?
Exactly. He basically says, I'm carrying this entire load while he does nothing. But the Prophet's response shatters our modern framework.
What did he tell him?
He told the working brother that he might actually be receiving his provision because of his studying brother.
Wow. I mean, that is just wild. It totally flips modern financial advice on its head.
How so?
Well, we're taught by modern hustle culture to just hoard our resources, right? To cut off anyone who isn't pulling their weight.
Oh, absolutely. Protect your ROI.
Exactly.
Okay.
But here, supporting a student or giving away money or even having a child is framed as the ultimate ROI strategy to unlock new lanes of provision.
It's beautifully counterintuitive. The act of charity or spiritual dedication doesn't deplete your resources. It's the very mechanism our razak uses to expand your highway.
The story of the London businessman is a perfect modern example of this.
Oh, the cleaning service guy. Yes.
Yeah.
He ran this massive cleaning empire across London hotels with businesses in Dubai and Saudi Arabia.
And apparently he had 0 actual business sense.
None. He didn't know advertising. He didn't have strategic hiring practices. His entire secret was just one rule. He never refused to financially help a Muslim in need.
Every single time someone asked, he gave.
Every time. And the Shaykh realized this perfectly embodied the hadith that says Allah will help his servant as long as he helps his brother.
He literally bypassed the corporate ladder and went straight for the hidden channels.
Exactly. But it's also crucial to clarify the theology here. Allah doesn't need our charity.
Right, because historically, some groups mocked that idea.
Yes, some Jews at the time mocked charity collections by calling Allah poor. But the collections are entirely for our own spiritual benefit. You give to expand your own baraka, not to fill a divine deficit.
And that completely re-engineers our fear of scarcity, especially around having a family. People are terrified of poverty when getting married or having kids.
But they shouldn't be. The spouse and the child each bring their own predestined risk with them. You aren't dividing your provision, they bring their own to the table.
Okay, so we put in the physical effort, we leverage charity, and the provision actually arrives. But we're not quite off the hook yet, are we?
No, we are not. This is the ultimate test, the concept of tayyib.
Right, the provision has to be pure and lawful. Just because something is provided doesn't mean it should be consumed.
Exactly. The guarantee the risk will reach you doesn't absolve you of moral accountability.
So, like, a person cannot go to a liquor store, buy a bottle of alcohol, drink it, and then excuse it by saying, well, Allah provided this money for me, so it's my predestined risk.
People try to use that logic, but it's completely weaponizing the concept of destiny. It's an alibi for terrible choices.
It completely ignores free will.
It does. We see the perfect archetype of this choice during the night journey. The prophet was offered two forms of risk, a vessel of milk and a vessel of wine.
And he had the absolute freedom to choose either one.
Exactly. He chose the milk, which represents the lawful and pure, and left the intoxicating, unlawful wine. And the angel Jibril praised him for making that pure choice.
It highlights the tension of purchasing power perfectly. A Razik puts the money in your hands, but then leaves the ball completely in your court.
Yes, the delivery is guaranteed, but the choice is yours.
You have the power to buy the forbidden thing, but doing so taints the very provision you were given.
And that is the ultimate test of free will.
Oh.
We are constantly choosing between good and evil. We will be held accountable on the day of judgment for which version of the risk we chose to consume.
So, bringing this all together, we've really learned today that risk is so much more than just money. It's literally the air we breathe and the sleep we get.
And we've seen how provision expands and restricts like lanes on a highway, acting as a protective guardrail.
Right, and how baraka stretches our wealth and our time. Plus, that counterintuitive power of radical generosity.
And finally, the absolute necessity of choosing the pure, the tayyib, over the unlawful.
So the next time you feel overwhelmed by bills or career anxiety, just remember that your provision has already been written by our Razak. It includes the very fact that you woke up today.
Your baseline is secure.
Exactly. But I want to leave you with a final lingering question to ponder today. If our time, our health, and even our daily sleep are literally forms of divine provision allocated to us, how much of this precious risk are we mindlessly wasting every single day simply because it doesn't have a price tag attached to it? Think about that. We will catch you on the next Deep Dive.